ready down there?
What's that?
Ready down there?
Wait a second.
Let me know when you're ready, Mary Ellen.
We're ready.
You ready? Ready? Okay. Good evening. Welcome everyone to the February 5th meeting of the Town of Monroe. There are two exits behind you, one behind our town board table here, and you'll exit out to your right. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we begin our three public hearings that we have, over the last couple of weeks, we've had an exhaustive process to try to fill our vacancy up here on the town board. We'd like to thank all those people who submitted their names for consideration and who chose to make that sacrifice to help the town of Monroe. The change in our government recently was very evident due to the fact that we received quite a bit of resumes, quality resumes from candidates who did desire to consider filling the vacancy on our board. It's really a blessing that it seems like Monroe is back, and the response to our need for a council person just verified where we're going as a town.
Some of the qualities we were looking for was definitely enthusiasm and a love for the town of Monroe. Savvy financial thinker, someone who would be committed for 6 years. They would be running for election this November and again in November of 2019. An individual who would have the time to put into the duties of councilperson and the next two elections as well. We required professionalism, a fresh thinker who understands the analytics of the issues that surround us and the challenges that lay ahead.
We started with 15 candidates, 3 male, 3 female, 12 male. One of the interviewees, while being interviewed on the telephone, informed us that they were living in Blooming Grove with a Monroe address, and so that really left us with 14 candidates. There were 9 phone interviews, mainly for those who are new to the process as well.
We personally interviewed 3 females and 4 male candidates. After those interviews, 4 town board members reviewed each of the finalists, 7 finalists, and it was agreed by each of us that the candidate chosen this evening would best fit the needs of the town in the future. At this point, I'd like to make the motion that we appoint Sal Scancarello to the town board.
And I'd like to second that motion.
Second. Any other discussion?
To the other candidates, if I may say,
Go ahead.
that does not mean that we don't want you helping us out at this end. There's still a lot of different community boards that we have that you can always work on, and we always welcome new members to work with us, and in this way we don't want to dampen your enthusiasm, because there was a lot of enthusiasm for this position.
I'll echo Rick's sentiments. That the one really positive thing that came out of this is that we had a lot of quality candidates come forward that will, some that were already on very important town commissions and boards, and others that we see as future candidates for those positions, and that's great, because we know that's been something that has been long lacking here, and it's great to see people want to get involved in the community and make the town better. So it's good, real positive thing came out of it, and that's we got to meet a lot of good people. That's great. That's really fantastic.
I think you'll agree it was very close. And,
Yeah,
Yes.
no, there was
It was very
just
close.
tremendous, and everyone had something that was really positive that you were like, but I really like this, I really like that. I think at the end of the day, Sal kind of encompassed the whole package for us, and for most of us, I think, or for all of us, I think we all thought that he would be the best fit, and that had the enthusiasm, the private sector business experience, and just everything that we wanted for a person, someone that was committed, that would run again in November, and then the following year, someone that was going to really just put their heart and soul into this, and after doing it for 2 years, we can all attest to the fact that, well, Rick, you've been doing it a lot longer, but that this is a full-time, part-time job, and you've got to be all in. So
Okay.
again, I'll be.
You made
Anybody
the
else, or
motion? Yeah.
No, I'll call the question, and if nobody has anything else to add. Okay, so I call the question in regard to the filling the vacancy for the town council person's position.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
aye.
Okay, so moved. You can join us up here, and Mrs. Beams will swear you in.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sal Scancarella,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Town of Monroe,
Town of Monroe,
Town Councilman,
Town Councilman,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Salad Valerie, Mary Ellen, our council, Ryan Nugent. Yeah, it's right here. Oh, okay. Yeah, we shifted everything down, so. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
April's our assessor, and John Schring is our highway.
Hi, how are you?
You're unfortunately next to Tony. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for the backup, though. So, Okay. So we will move on in the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from January 22nd?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Next are three public hearings. The first one is 3.1, proposed local law number 1-218, the local law amending Article 6 of the town code to provide a senior citizen exemption pursuant to New York State real property tax law number 467. I will turn this portion of the meeting over to Mr. Nugent.
Thank you, Supervisor. Tonight we have 3 public hearings. This is the first of them. They all concern modifications to the town code concerning tax exemptions. Primarily it concerns changes in the income ranges, and I know Ms. McDonald is here. If you want to add anything, feel free to jump in. This first one is actually an enactment, since the town had previously rescinded the exemption many years. I think it was 1990 it had been withdrawn. So this is a new section that'll bring in the real property exemption for persons 65 and over within the town, and then it provides the income ranges and the exemption percentages. So this first local law will enact Chapter 47-18, 19, 20, and that pretty much is a summary of the first enactment.
For that one, Brian, that was never revoked. It was hidden on the E-code only, so it was under 1, which was replaced with alternative ed, I believe. So we just moved the bulletin down. This exemption has been on the books with the limits of maximum being $36,399. So we're just enacting it as a different subchapter in the code, because somewhere along the line it got replaced in Chapter 47 with, I believe, the alternative vets.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
existing now, right? At least
It is
not.
absolutely existing.
No, I'm saying, but it's not in the code, like general
It's
code.
not,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Exactly.
So these sections that are here will be the sections where it will be reflected in the town code. And April, the exemptions do change, correct, from what you had on this version? In other words, the existing percentages and the income numbers, or are they the same?
The income numbers, what do you mean by from this version?
In other words, was there any change in the ranges here, the annual income ranges and exemption percentages, or they stay the same?
No, it's currently $36,399
Okay.
as the maximum, and what we're asking to adopt is the $37,399. It's $1,000 more per each bucket, and this was done recently by Orange County. Orange County
Okay.
increased the limits. The school's been made aware, and the villages as well. They have to adopt these separately. So this is just for the town that we're asking for this tonight, and it would coincide then with what the county has recently adopted.
All right, so Supervisor, at this point, since it is a public hearing, we would provide an opportunity for any interested members of the public that wish to speak could come up and speak on. This is specifically just the enactment of the local law regarding the senior citizen exemption.
Is there anyone that would like to speak? No? Okay.
If the board members have any comments, otherwise we can close the public hearing and have a motion to enact the local law as presented to the board.
Okay. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any other discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay. So we need a motion to adopt
To adopt.
Yes.
real property tax law, section 467.
I'll make that motion to adopt the new real property tax law 467.
And I'd like to second.
Second. Any other discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Madam Clerk, for the record, Councilman Scancarello has said he will abstain from matters this
All
evening.
throughout the evening,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, Supervisor,
Okay.
the second local law will need a motion to open a public hearing, and this is on a local law to amend Chapter 47, Article 5, Section 4715. And this local law is amending an existing chapter, and this concerns individuals with disability, and there's the same similar chart of income limits and exemption percentages, and this would amend that income range, I believe, that is existing in the town code.
Okay. Anything you want to say to that?
It's exactly
Exactly
the
the
same.
same.
Same, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone from the public that wants to speak? No?
Supervisor, just need a motion to open that hearing.
Make a motion to open the hearing on section 459-C of chapter 47.
I'll make that
second.
motion.
All right, you got it.
So you have Councilman McGinn made the motion, Councilman Cologne seconded it. Any discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Anybody from the public wish to speak on this exemption? Okay, same process, Supervisor. If the board wants to make any comments, otherwise we can close the public hearing, and we need a motion to adopt this amendment to the town code.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay. We need a...
I'll make the motion to adopt section 459C
The real property tax law.
of real property tax law.
Okay, I'll second it. Any other discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved.
Thank you, Supervisor. And the final public hearing that we will need to open with a motion concerns the Cold War veteran exemption. And basically, this local law will amend the existing town code. There was a 10-year limitation that was imposed on this particular exemption, and New York State passed a law allowing municipalities to remove that limitation. So this is really the only change to that section of the code. It would change 47-4 to remove that exemption and allow individuals to still qualify for this Cold War veteran exemption. And Mr. McDonald, if you have anything to add, feel free.
I'll make a motion to open that public hearing for Chapter 47, Article 1A.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, wait. Call the question.
Aye.
Call the question. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any discussion?
It's pretty straightforward. The Cold War veteran, just to explain, it's different than the alternative vets. This is for non-wartime. It's at a lower percentage than the alternative vets, and it did have that 10-year limitation. And again, the county also opted, once the state put this into effect, to remove that term limit. And this is for our veterans, so I feel that.
April, do you know how many properties qualify for that in the town? Or
I
how many
don't.
people apply for it?
I don't have a number necessarily now. It is a small fraction. It is much smaller than the alternative vet.
Okay, and I guess it's determined by the state statute who qualifies for it and who
Absolutely.
doesn't.
Yes,
Okay.
they have to follow the state real property tax law.
Do you do that verification that they are in line
All
with?
the exemption verifications we do.
Okay.
Yes. And this just allows them to keep it as long as they own the home. You know, once they sell the home, all of the exemptions are removed, and if someone purchased it, we do a rollback for any portions of it, any exemption that they're not entitled to other than the star, will get billed to that person on the next bill. It's called a rollback. It's done through the county. So no one's going to get entitled to anything they're not entitled to.
Okay. I'll make...
Just if anyone wants to speak from the
Yep.
public.
Make requests for anyone who wants to speak from the public regarding this? No? Okay. I'll
Okay,
make
so
a
we can close the
motion
public
that we
hearing and
close
then
the public
vote.
hearing regarding Chapter 47, Article 1A.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Now make a motion to approve.
Now I'll make a motion that we approve Local Law 3-2018, amending Chapter 57, Article 1A.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Okay. Old business.
Thank you, April, for giving us a brief explanation.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, April.
Thank you, April.
On January 24th, we had a showing of 12 Strong, where our town partnered with the county to show the movie 12 Strong. It's a special forces team that was deployed, the first team deployed to Afghanistan immediately after the September 11th terrorist attacks. The showing was received so well that the first showing we had 190 veterans sign up. This was done at no cost to the veterans. The county did offer to pay. We were, as a board, we were inclined to offer our theater, the movie, at no cost. And what happened was ShopRite stepped in, and ShopRite donated enough money to pay for the 190 at the first show, 70 at the second show, and anyone who wanted a popcorn and soda combination was able to get that, which ShopRite paid for as well. ShopRite also Tom Eitz, I think his last name is, from ShopRite, was present along with their president and CEO. I believe Tom is the vice president. And they also presented the Orange County veterans with a check for over $200,000. I believe it was $210,000. So a great effort by our county and ShopRite and all the employees at the theater who really went above and beyond to make sure it was a great experience for all the vets. I'll tell you a quick personal story, and then we'll move on. There was a gentleman there named Alan Mack who happened to be the pilot of the Chinook helicopter that flew the team in on the mission. And afterwards, we were chatting, and I came to find out because a former teammate of mine in college was also a Chinook pilot, and I came to find out that they had flown a couple of missions together. And the funny part of the story was my teammate Timmy was a big Patriots fan, and they flew a mission. Alan couldn't remember whether it was the day of or the day after the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and he said Timmy was not in a good mood the whole trip. So it was a nice story. It shows you what a small world it is and how, you know, people from different parts of everyone's life, you know, come together as one. I just wanted to let everybody know that it was a great show, and we intend to do it anymore. We intend to do it some more when the opportunity presents itself. Okay. Under new business, membership for Government Finance Officers Association. Councilman McGinn, you want to brief us on that?
Yeah, it's actually a national organization. Of course, it has a state chapter here in New York, and it is comprised of controllers, comptrollers, town bookkeepers, city treasurers, and village treasurers. It's an organization that we should have been a member of for a long time. And one of the things I realized when we started looking for controller candidates or assistant controller candidates, we realized that this resource was there, but because we weren't members of it, we couldn't access their database of people that were out there through want ads and things like that. So, and I didn't know about this. I spoke to someone that used to be a high-ranking commissioner of finance in one of the counties, and he said, "How come you guys aren't members of this?" And I said, "Well, we didn't know about it. We know about it now." So I'd like to make a motion that we join the organization and pay the membership fee of $305.
I'll second for discussion.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Second
Yes.
for discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have money in the budget for this kind of association?
There is a line.
Go ahead.
Mr. Supervisor, go ahead.
No, good. No, good.
No, we do have a budget line for association fees and things like that. I don't know what the budget line is off the top of my head, but we do have money in the budget for it.
And we've never belonged to this organization before. And there's nothing similar because they're more from the Midwest, from my understanding.
They are from the Midwest, but they have a pretty strong chapter here in New York, up in Albany.
One of the examples that I had my secretary look into this, and in order for us to access any possible candidates, I believe the fee was $500 for us to advertise on their site. But if we were members, the fee was like $140 or $145. So the the advantage of being a member definitely will, I think, help us, maybe garner some prospective candidates, whether it's in the assistant controller's position, whether it's for a grant writer, or anything associated with ways that it could help our town.
Right, I also understand they do budgeting as well.
Yes, they do.
All right. That answers my questions.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Also, under new business, we developed a janitorial bid for the town through the efforts of a couple of people. Mr. Nugent, my secretary Jennifer, Anne-Marie Morris was instrumental. I know Mary Ellen helped out a little bit with it. And it's been before you, and I would like someone to make a motion to approve the resolution for distribution of the janitorial bid so we can move forward. What will happen during the process, if it is approved, is we will have site visits with every company that chooses to consider bidding. And those site visits are designated in the actual bid papers. So I just would like somebody to make a motion to distribute it, pending, obviously, final approval of our attorney.
I'll make that motion to approve the resolution to distribute a bid for the janitorial services for the town.
Okay.
And that would be from, what is that, 3-year bid, 2-year bid?
It's a 2-year bid, yeah.
From April 1st, 2018 through March 2020. And that would be pending approval of the attorney and the rest of the board members, I would take it.
Okay. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second? Any discussion?
The janitorial services would include what now?
Okay. So, based on the bid, it's going to include cleaning of the senior center, the highway garage, and all of them have particular aspects that will be done. Like the senior center, I believe, will be done 4 days. The highway garage will be done 1 day. Dial-a-bus, I believe, is 1 or 2 days. It will include present town hall offices. It will include the theater. And all those parameters for each building are outlined within the bid
All right.
package.
Does that also include the courts?
Yes, I'm sorry, and the courts as well.
Is that going to include the, assuming that we wind up getting the whole building?
Does not include that part of the building as we speak. We would have to readjust it, only because there's going to be a trade-off if the courts end up coming over. We're not going to be doing it over there, but they're going to be doing it, upstairs. And then I don't know how many offices are going to be vacant downstairs that are going to be taken over upstairs. So I don't think anybody would have the capabilities to actually give an accurate price based on, we don't know how things are going to lay out in the final scheme of things.
Supervisor, just if we could amend the motion to make clear that this is to authorize the public issuance of the bid, and also if we could add to authorize the town clerk to set the return dates once the bid documents are in order.
Okay.
Can we put in a 30-day notice? In other words, if we don't like the bid that we're getting, for the new town hall and whatnot, that we can get out a 30-day out?
Well, you already have that. In other words,
It's
to
in-
reject
it's
the
in-
bids?
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah, you already have that language in there. So
Right.
if you don't like any of the bids, you can reject, you can reissue, whatever the board desires.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
You're okay?
I'm
adding-
good with that.
You're okay adding the descriptions Mr. Nugent brought up?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? You have those particulars, Mary Ellen? Okay. I'll call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So moved. Also under new business, section 5.3, Revision of the employee handbook, section 506. This was brought up by Councilwoman Bingham, and I will defer to you right now regarding it.
Right now, the employee handbook says that in lieu of having a receipt for a meal, there are certain dollar amounts, $38 for lunch, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it is for dinner, and also whether it's in the city or outside the city. A lot of the seminars now include lunch and breakfast or some type of meal. I don't feel it's necessary that we have a blanket dollar amount. I think people should have a receipt for their meals, and I'd like to have this amended in the town handbook.
Okay. Mr. Nugent, could you create language?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, is the amendment to require the receipt or to not? In other words, maybe use these numbers as maximums, but they would produce a receipt?
Right, they would produce a receipt, and as long as they have a receipt, that would be the amount they are paid for, not to exceed the amount that's already noted in the handbook.
Correct, all right, so we'll use those numbers. Yeah, we can provide a draft to the board with new language.
Reimburse the actual amount not to exceed $38.
Right.
Was
For
38 or
example,
34?
for lunch,
Right.
Was it 34 or 38?
it was 38, I believe, for lunch.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want someone getting a slice of pizza and then throwing it, hey, you owe me $38 for it.
Exactly.
It's inexpensive.
Right.
Well, if you're in Manhattan, it could be 38
Well,
for a slice of
And the
pizza.
way the
You pay
handbook,
$38 for a slice of pizza. Shame on
and the
you.
way the handbook reads right now is if I go to a seminar and they are providing lunch, I could still put down lunch on my voucher and collect the $38. So
No,
like I
that's-
said, I don't think that's fair to the taxpayers. I
No.
want a receipt.
Mary, I'm sure there's somebody that has.
Okay. So, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we have our attorney draft new language for our handbook to limit the amount for meals to the dollar amounts that are noted already, but it would also need a receipt not to exceed the amounts already noted.
Okay. And that's just not for, that's for a meal allowance. We're not just talking about lunch here, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion?
We are going to also clarify in there that, and we should, that they actually did purchase a meal. Like your example, if they go to a conference, a meal's provided, it
Well,
should
they
state
have to have a receipt.
the receipt, yeah.
So the
Yeah.
conference is not going to give them a receipt for a lunch that.
And
the
if someone
conference-
doesn't have a receipt, do we want to have any provision, a minimum amount, or which is
Then they
no reimbursement?
They don't get reimbursed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Section 5.4, creation of a new town of Monroe street map. This has been a topic of discussion by the building department. It's been brought up to me a few times in the last couple of weeks. I'm under the assumption that I can get this from the county, yet we have approximately how many miles, street miles of
Approximately
undedicated-
51 miles.
But
Some-
what's undedicated?
Undedicated, you're looking at about 40-something miles. 10 miles undedicated.
10 miles undedicated, okay.
As far as the street map goes, Tony, I do have one at the highway garage. We just purchased this last year. Actually, I gave Harley a copy, so it was in his office. I'm not sure if it's still there or not.
It
but,
might be in one of the furniture drawers, I'm not sure.
You can contact that provider, and I think it was relatively cheap, and it's a very nice one.
Where did you get them at, from the county?
No, I got it actually private.
Mark Etzel did our last map that I have in my office now.
Right. I thought it had to be prepared by the town engineer.
The town engineer
In order-
prepared the last map.
Right.
Yeah, this
in
is just
order
more of
for-
a street directory that I have, but it's, a map of the whole town and borders and everything else, and basically visual roads and everything that we have, so.
Right, but I think you need an official town map in order to qualify for CHIPS funding
Oh, I
and
understand
things
that,
like that.
yes.
So I think the motion should be made that we authorize the town engineer to provide an official town map.
Okay. All right.
Are you sure that's necessary?
Yeah, especially with,
Yeah, it
I think
makes
what we
sense.
have to do is we have to also look at the fact that we have to get those roads that aren't dedicated.
The roads that are not dedicated, I think.
Have to be.
Dedicated, and I'm not sure on the legal side of that, how you're gonna go about that, because they may have been dedicated once already, or they may not have been dedicated once. Nobody
Nobody can find anything.
we
on
can't
it.
find the information.
The records are in Pennsylvania. The past dedications, the older dedications are, Attorney Sweeney back in the day, there was a whole file on the road dedications.
So with respect to Attorney Sweeney's time on the board, do you know, or when he did the work, do you know?
That was back in the 80s, I believe.
All right, because I know that the road list that John had given me for the 10 miles was probably roads that were dedicated in the 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying Mike Daly, and, you know, possibly some of Roy's time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is going back a little ways. I mean, Gatehouse Road is one of the roads there, and that's been
there a while.
You know, been there a while.
Gatehouse
That-
Road off of Ludlam?
Okay, so Gatehouse Road, I would think, would be there quite some time.
Yeah, there was, well, some of the new roads were, like, I guess Pressford Garden.
Correct. I mean,
Briar.
I don't have the list in front of me,
Yeah,
guys. I do
Briarwood, I think,
apologize.
was on there.
Yeah, but
So-
I know you guys had all the emails that Bob had sent out for this, and
All right, so how about we do this? How about prior to making a motion on this, I'll look into this a little bit more and just try to find out where exactly we are and what needs to be done.
we did submit
Any new
those
roads?
roads again to the state. I don't know if it was going to fly or not, but I'm sure the
You
state.
guys submitted them?
We submitted them again,
Okay.
but I submitted them again without any type of resolution or any type of documentation stating that they were dedicated.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm
So,
sure the state's going to.
Mr. Nugent, would it be advantageous for us to pass a resolution regarding those roads possibly at the next meeting, just so we have it at least?
Yeah, I mean, the official map would not just be what sounds like John was originally talking about, a street directory.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, which, you know, an official map's going to have your drainage, your, you know, much more specific, which is probably what the engineer would have drafted. You know, the board, look, I think you can, for now, you know, confer with John, decide what needs to be done before we make a motion. I don't even know what we're doing at this point, so it'd be hard to make a motion other than to, you know, ask whoever to begin the process of compiling whatever information we may need, start checking the roads. If we're looking at issues of dedication, what was or wasn't dedicated, that's a whole other project. I mean, so I don't know if you need a specific motion with respect to the map, but maybe just some direction on what the town board wants to have done right now.
Yeah. Basically, we just went by going through the list of CHIPS funded roads that the state provided us and
Right.
said, hey, some of these roads aren't on here. So, I mean, it was, you know, time-consuming process. And then I drove around the town of Monroe for 2 weeks just measuring, just to make sure we were getting the exact amount of money we deserve from the state, you know. So it's going to be, once we discussed it with the state, they said, well, we need a dedication for these roads. And I said, well, can the town board rededicate these roads if need be and have that on a referendum or whatever that you would send them? And they said, that may work. That may work. They didn't say yes, it would, but they said that may work. So
Yeah, so we can start by looking at the list. Do you have a list, John, of the streets that are
I do have a list, not with me at this time.
No, but the ones that are not on the state's list?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we can start with that and start looking at those.
I think probably the best thing is to get Mark together with John, and then let's get the official town map with the districts and everything else on it, and then go forward after that with the resolution, once we have something official to work off of.
Absolutely.
Right, so we'll need a resolution to authorize the town engineer to work
Work
with
with
our
John.
highway department.
Yes.
All right, so
Yeah,
that would
that's
be the
probably a good
motion
idea.
then.
Just so the board knows, John did give me that list a few months ago. I went through all the deeds of road dedications because I have the deeds in my office, all the town property. And for those roads, we did not have anything unless it's buried in a deed somewhere where some of Macon's roads were buried in Loop A, Loop B. See, it doesn't state the name of the road, it states a loop. So, you know, but we did research, and I don't have any deeds saying the names.
Okay. All right, so Mary, did you make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Do you
it.
want to put a amount, a maximum?
$1,000 to start.
I think we should make it like 3,500 because it doesn't seem you can get anything done for $1,000 with the engineer. And I'm not saying
With
that
an
bad about the engineer. I'm just saying it's when you start looking at billable hours, it's I don't think it's a lot.
All right.
Listen, you know better. You're on the planning board. I just think
I
like
will.
$1,000.
Can we ask him to update the map that we have to add the roads that
Let
aren't
him
on there?
update.
I mean,
Yeah.
we already have one, and he has it, I believe, in CAD. So all he's doing is updating.
But if the state needs the resolution from the town, then we're also going to need to show that those roads are dedicated to the town as well.
Were we talking about that or the $3,000? Why don't we stick to the G note, pass it, and if extra is needed, we'll go from there.
Okay, so my
that's fine.
motion will include a dollar amount of $3,500.
No, if you want to keep it 1,000, that's fine.
Call it 2,500.
Keep it at 1,000, and if
Yeah.
more is needed, then more is needed.
Okay, so
If you
I-
start at 3,000, you'll need 4, trust me.
All right, so going back to the motion to allow the highway superintendent to discuss the updated town official town map with the town engineer with a dollar limit of $1,000.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, John, before we go into the next item under new business, I know, John, you had some aspects of the vehicles you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, basically, I'll just start out with a little bit of a summary of what went down in the last few storms that we had. As of right now, all the trucks that we have with the new truck that was just purchased, basically everybody's butt is in the truck, okay? Everybody's butt's in the seat. I have no spare trucks at this point. The last storm, the snowstorm we had a couple weeks ago, we had numerous breakdowns throughout the course of the snowstorm. One truck was broke down for the course of the snowstorm at that time. Of course, things get more tricky because now you have a small truck out there trying to take the place of a big truck. It's not working. I did come up with a truck replacement schedule when I first became elected. So if you want to pass that out real quick. The last ice storm, we had another truck break down. That broke down throughout the course of that was just last night, the night before, Super Bowl Sunday. So the truck that broke down there is still up in Arkells. We could not fix it. It's a emissions problem. You know, with all the good that the environmentalists like to do, unfortunately, sometimes that good turns to bad, especially when things break down because it's new. This could be a pricey fix. This is actually a relatively new truck. And then with that, page 3, I believe I have a number 9 on here. The red numbers next to the vehicle is basically, so number 9 is a 1999 International. This truck is starting to deteriorate quickly. This would be a good spare truck, but it's starting to get to the point where we're starting to nickel and dime it and putting some pretty good money into it. Basically, to cut it short, we need another truck. I didn't want to do it this year. I was trying to wait till next year, but once you have snowstorms to where you're starting to get these breakdowns more consistently and starting to see certain people's areas become less plowed because of the smaller equipment that we're trying to use to plow it, it's just not working. We need a spare truck that I can use that's going to be big enough to basically provide us with the service we need. We do not have that. As you can see, I do have a couple tandem axle trucks here that they cannot be used for snow plow no more. They're too old. The one Sterling is a part tandem axle vehicle. Roy had bought that vehicle years ago.
It's a leaf truck.
That was another truck that just cannot be used for a spare. It cannot be used for snow plowing. We tried to do the brining system with that vehicle,
Yeah,
and we
I
tore the rear end right out of it. It's just not that. It's just not that style of truck. like I say, I was trying to get through another year, and hopefully, things would progress. We'd see where KJ goes, what KJ wants to do. Right now we have 3 trucks in the village of Curious Joel. I'm trying to keep that as a separate entity, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be putting that with the town of Monroe as far as them 3 trucks and KJ need to be there, and we'll work on that deal when we renegotiate a contract, But right now, we do not have a feasible spare truck to provide the taxpayers of this town with the service we need, even after buying that newer truck that we have, to where I put that in the Lake Region Boulevard side. I took the truck out of the Lake Region Boulevard side, and that's in KJ now. So,
What do you anticipate the cost of a new truck?
we just spent 200
200.
and change on that new
Right.
truck from Vermont, and I'm thinking right around the same price, figure a $210,000 note.
Okay, and it obviously wasn't budgeted for this year.
We're not budgeted for that, but I don't think I budget for any type of vehicles. That's always been in the capital reserve or whatever the case might be.
Okay.
You're switching fleet to Freightliner.
I will buy whatever. I will
No, I'm just asking.
either international Freightliner. I mean, if Mac had something worthwhile to look into, I would, but I don't like the
You wanna
engine on the
keep
Mac.
the old-
But I like the Freightliners. I like the Western Stars. I like the Internationals.
Which is the one that we just purchased?
That was a
Number
Western.
5?
That was a Western Star, which is a glorified. No, I do not have that truck on this list at this time.
Okay. All right.
The only thing I updated on this list was actually the sweeper.
Okay.
Okay, but as you can see, that was a 15-year replacement schedule. The truck I'm looking at right now is almost 20 years old.
To replace.
To replace, and that would be replaced, and then that truck would become a spare. That's basically what would happen. So that would be, once these trucks start getting that 15-year mark, 10-year, 15-year mark, they take a beating. There's just no question about it.
You think 12 would be a better?
What's that?
12 would be better.
Yeah. 12 would probably be a better, and this is something that I never.
I'm just thinking
yeah.
of breakdowns.
On
in
a
the
number
gears.
on numbers, yeah, 12-year would be a better replacement schedule. Of course, it would be. I put 15-year in there to bring it up to the board as needed. This isn't cut and dry. Anybody that's been in the business long enough knows that this isn't cut and dry. If I had a truck that's 12 years old and I say, hey, this truck can get me at least another 3 years, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
This old number 9 here, I know it'll get me at least another 3 or 4 years as a spare, but it's not going to do that as the mainline truck. It's just getting to the point where, and it's not the engine. The engine's sound in this vehicle. It's all the other stuff that come with the trucks, and Ward can tell you. It's the springs, and it's the hydro systems, and everything else that comes that the salt and just tears them apart. So that's where we are. You're almost at a 20-year truck right now with a very sound engine to it, a great cab, but the chassis starting to fail on it. And every time that fails, the brake system, that's $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So
Okay.
we're at the point now where we got to make a decision. As I said, I was hoping to do this next year, but right now I think after seeing these last 2 storms and knowing that I'm not providing the service that I need to provide to the town of Monroe, we have to do something.
Okay. Let me suggest this. Let me speak with our controller.
Sure.
To see where we can possibly get the funds from.
I got an idea.
Oh, you got an idea?
Not right now. I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay. Okay, but all right. So you'll give me your idea, then I'll decide whether I'll speak with our controller. John, if you could get pinpoint more of a price range.
Yeah, I'll start reaching out for some
Yeah.
prices again, and I'll also actually start reaching out to see if anything's in stock.
And hopefully you're able to get through this winter without any other major hiccups.
We're there.
All right.
We're close. Every day is closer to spring.
Yeah.
I think next year, or this year that we're in, the budget year, we're going to have to start working in a fleet replacement for highway, because it's obviously something that should be budgeted.
That should be
Capital.
something that you know that you have this much
We're
money
putting-
to spend.
yeah, we're putting-
This is years of
Yeah.
replacing when you need to. Okay, we're going to try to replace this truck now, rather than actually sitting down and saying, listen, next year, it's going to be a busy year. We got 2 trucks we got to replace. We better have that in capital.
No, we should be squirreling away money every year to.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the
okay.
fire district, the fire district has a 30-year plan right now of every rig that they're replacing. It's very feasible, and Richie Goldstein's You know, and we're trying to stick with it the best we can. Some, like you say, sometimes it's not going to be that 20 years. It's going to be 21 or 22, or not 15. It's going to be 16 or 17. But we have a pretty good idea for the next 30 years what rigs are going to be replaced and what type of monies you're looking at doing and making sure that's in the capital.
Okay. All right. So we'll wait till Rick, gives me his idea. All right. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we had the sweeper money come in, I heard too, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
So that was quicker than expected, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully in the next month we should have it.
I think the check's in the mail, or I think it's in our hands.
Do you think we received it already?
I think we did, yeah.
Oh, so I didn't hear that. That would be nice. Nice if I knew. All right.
That's the control.
Yeah, I'll have to ask. Okay.
I'll look for the email.
Thanks. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Next item on the agenda for new business is Monbassia Park and Monbassia Park Lake. There's a substantial amount of beaver activity there, and I'd like to ask our liaison, or Dave, you want to come up first? Anne-Marie, I want you to speak as well, Dave. So just so the process went like this. Anne-Marie did an evaluation of Monbassia Park over the weekend, 2 weekends ago. She contacted me because coincidentally, Dave Corrado, who is a licensed New York State trapper, had called her since he lives off of West Monbassia, and we did a tour of the park together, and it was extremely enlightening as to what is going on there. So I will turn it over to you, Anne-Marie.
Maybe Dave, you want both of us will
Yeah,
do
that's
it,
fine.
okay? Because I may say one of the bungee words wrong or something like that. So we did walk the park, and we were surprised at the water level, the dams, the beaver huts, and the bungee sticks, and the deforestation that's going on in Monbassia Park right now. So we have not had. We haven't had any work up there that you're aware of. You were the last one.
A couple of years ago, I was given permission from the board to do a little bit of trapping over there. I live not far from the park, and Sandy Leonard had gone through to the board process and had gotten me permission, and I had removed several beavers out of the park. And if you spend any time in the park, you'll see that there's a couple of old beaver huts, and there's a little older beaver hut, and there's a very brand new beaver hut. And it's just below the ball field there to the left. There's a very large beaver hut now. And if you look at the knob that's above that, they've basically cut all the trees off of that thing. And it's over 100 trees. And if you go over there, you can see there's what I'm calling our punji sticks. The beavers on the smaller trees, they're really able with their teeth to just cut one chop and just make a 45-degree angle. So you've got all these sticks. They're about 15 or 18 inches high off the ground, and when you look, if you've never seen it and you look, at first you won't notice anything, and with the snow you won't see all the fresh shavings, but with the no snow, you see the white from the clean cut of a fresh cut piece of wood, and you just look and they've cut everything that they get a hold of, and they've cut it all down. In addition to that, if you look at the pond, you see that there are more and more trees in standing water where there should not be standing water. And we do not have trees in this part of the country that live in standing water. This is not cypress country. And as the water level in those ponds rise, we're getting more trees sitting in the standing water as well. So not only is it the trees themselves that they're removing, is the water level rising and affecting the trees that then are in the lower lying area. And this process of chopping down these trees occurs every fall as the beavers get ready for the winter. And what they do is they chop down all these trees, they drag the trees off, and if you look, you'll see the tree bases, they might be 6 or 8 inches around, which is a decent tree, might be 15, 20 feet tall, and there's no sign of it, because they've chopped it up and hauled it all off into the water, and they've buried it all with the idea that as the ice is over, that's what they're going to eat on all winter. And so you won't see very much activity unless you look right along the beaver house, where you can see a little bit of open water. But that's what they're feeding on all winter. And so that's why it becomes significant. Somebody in the summertime might have been at the park and said, I see the huts, I don't really see any activity. But if you had gone there in November, you'd have said, holy cow, they've chopped down in the course of a few weeks. I mean, just everything they can get a hold of. And that's what's gone on. And so it's probably time again for the town to authorize a little bit of activity over there to do a little bit of management so that you can manage the population relative to the habitat you have that's available. Because I think you want to have the beavers and I think we want to have the trees. I just think we've got to find a way to keep a little bit of a balance.
Do they hibernate during the winter?
They don't necessarily hibernate, but they become very inactive. So on a warm day, especially now, well, if we get a couple of warm days and it doesn't have ice storms and stuff, you might see a little bit of activity in the middle of the afternoon sometime, and you might even find some footprints in the snow. Occasionally, I've seen footprints in the snow. But right now, for the most part, they'll stay denned up.
Do we have does the DEC or anybody do like a species or like a beaver count on how many are estimated to be in that area?
Well, they don't do a beaver count in that area specifically that I could point to. But I did have, and I did send to Anne Marie, and I believe she passed along to you guys, these two articles.
Oh, right.
And if everybody got it. And just to give you an idea here, I don't want to misquote, but if you get a couple of beavers, 2 beavers, and their offspring in 10 years can create 600 beavers. So...
Boy, they're busy, huh?
So busy as a beaver. There's no shortage of beavers. If you were to go over to Harriman State Park, for instance, I did a little bit of stuff for them last year, and 10 or 15 years ago, there might not have been that many beavers. Now there are beaver dens on every single lake they have. There's a large beaver den on Monbasha Lake in the back, and if you go there and look, all that beaver den gets is bigger. And every year it gets bigger, and that is a feeder. What happens is when beavers, the kits become 2 years old, they get dispersed, and they go look for new ponds to occupy.
Right.
And so you get a primary breeding pair, and then you get these other beavers, and they just keep going.
And what is this just due to lack of trapping and natural predators?
Well, it's a lack of natural predators, and there's just no open opportunity to do anything about these.
It's all on either state or private land for the most part.
Correct. I mean, somebody who has access to that pond could do something, but
Right.
unless you have access to that pond, there's no real way, unless somebody comes before the board and brings it up as a point, and the board approves that, because, I mean, look, it's town property that's not legal.
So I guess what the question is, how many of them do we trap and take care of to kind of get back into an acceptable level? And I guess that's the question on our minds, right?
I mean, these beavers, it sounds like they have a full logging operation going on. I mean, this is getting crazy. I mean, this is clear cutting. I mean, if you had an operation like this with people, it's clear cutting.
Right.
It would be, yes,
They're
correct.
doing it without a permit.
So, yeah, and without a permit.
Rick, you think that was the beavers over by the troopers barracks? You think that's what it was?
Diabolical. So can we get rid of these beavers?
Well,
You need a
we can
permit.
get,
Relocate them. Relocate.
okay.
No, I don't think there's
So-
any relocating.
We can manage them.
We can manage the population.
We can manage
Can
the
we
population.
manage the whole population?
Well, here's what I would say. I don't think it's to anybody's advantage to remove all the beavers. I enjoy seeing the beavers. I know other people, if you're there, and especially in the spring or late in the afternoon in the summer, you might see beaver activity. And I think that's fun for everybody to see. I think, on the other hand, we want to have trees in the park. And I think the trees provide cover for birds, they provide nuts and stuff for deer. So I think it's a question of balancing the habitat for all involved. So it's good for the beaver. We got to have something that's good for the beavers, because in order for the beavers to stay, they need to have food. And if there are no trees to eat, there'll be no beavers. So I don't think we want that. And I don't think you're ever going to get rid of all the beavers, because as soon as you get rid of those beavers, even if you did, beavers from down the way in the lake are going to come right up there and say, oh, hey, we found a new spot.
We found a new
We're going to
neighborhood."
move in. So they're going to move in. So I think it's a question of ongoing kind of vigilance about the park. And it really means walking around in the fall to see how much new activity do you see, and is it enough to warrant doing something? And it's really a partnership, and in this case, I'd like it to be me.
Because if we keep replanting
Well,
trees,
if you
they're going to
replant
just
it, they
chop
eat
them
it.
right down as soon as they get to be 2 inches around.
If you replant it, they will eat everything you plant. I mean, the only thing you could do, one recommendation DEC has, is you could put fencing around some of the trees. I mean, that gets to be relatively expensive pretty quickly.
But there were a few trees
But
that had that fencing around.
There
it.
were some
Yeah.
trees that had been fenced
Big
at the
trees,
tree,
yeah.
and if you go, that's the other thing too, is it's not just the trees they've cut down, it's the trees that they ring. So what they do is they eat the bark around the very large trees, and then that basically kills the tree, because if you look at the top of some of those trees, they're dying. And eventually what will happen is they'll fall over into the water
So-
or fall down.
Instead of putting a fence around each tree, can we put, like, say, a galvanized band?
You could put galvanized bands. That's a,
No, you're gonna girdle.
You're gonna girdle the
the
tree. It really comes down to having to have somebody come in every once in a while and remove a few beavers. There's not any other kind of methodology.
And the
It's-
state actually
it's-
recommends that.
I mean, and look, and if you read through the kind of stuff I sent you, it really says that's kind of what you do. And the town probably, I'm sure, has some other places too where this is an issue. I know Tony was telling me about behind the bus garage. They've got a problem where there's a bunch of the same kind of thing going on, and it's created some flooding and whatever.
10
Yeah,
years
because I
is how
imagine,
many? Again?
because I imagine you want to, rather than just do those, kind of thin out the herd, so to say, there, you want to go downstream and you want to go around to make sure we're not getting interlopers coming up from,
You'd want to spend a little bit of time and walk around and say, hey, how are these
Right.
moving around? What's the waterway? Is there anything we can do about it? I mean, I've only walked in the park as much as the park is open to people.
Right.
So I know the park is also bordered by private property. I haven't been on any of that property. So it's hard to say that whether or not any of those streams have been dammed so that they're back flooding as well. We don't know, and unless you're getting a complaint from somebody from the town who lives on some of those properties, we won't know.
Well, the one issue that I had found out was the swamp off of Berry Road in years past had gotten backed up so bad that it was affecting people's septic systems. So.
And that's
you know,
still happening. That's
Okay.
still happening.
Yeah.
We've cleared out a couple dams already for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
On Berry Road, if you go over by Ludlam, you can see the big pile of sticks that's right by the pond there, where they've obviously pulled out, where the beavers keep jamming up that pond so that they can back flood that little marsh that's on Ludlam,
Ludlam and
between
Margaret.
Ludlam and
Yeah,
Berry
that
there.
little pond there. That's
They've
the
been
sewer,
back,
the
flood, and you
septics
can
are
see
back.
there's a huge pile of sticks there, and that's got to be what it's from, is from somebody removing those beaver dams, because the beavers would keep damming it up.
so what's the plan? Where do we go from here?
Well, the state season is open till April 7th, and so with the approval of the board, as soon as it's opportune, I would get in there and try and get on getting a few of at least the beavers that are in the pond, and then walking the park and trying to find some other places, and can talk with Anne Marie and work with her as a partner, and to keep you guys informed, and then let you know what else we can do to kind of manage these guys.
Does the state
Is
have
this-
a limit as to how many beavers you can take on a permit?
No, so I'm a licensed trapper. There's no limit on the number of beavers. There's the state, as long as they're in open season, and the season opened November the 10th, and it's open through April 7th, and as long as it's done in accordance with the guidelines in the New York State rules and regulations, you're open to take as many beavers as you want.
Is there any cost associated with this? With the
No,
town?
there's no associated cost for the town.
It's just you're going to go
It's just
trap
my
them.
personal time, and I'm not
Okay.
asking the town to do anything about that.
Okay.
Get 'em.
So.
I mean, does anybody have any other questions for me?
All right. So do you need like an authorization? I guess basically.
We need a
Because it's town-
resolution.
Yeah.
We need a resolution to allow him to do that. The only question I had, because when after we left that day, I was reading up over the next couple of days, it seemed to me that ripping the dams down creates more of a problem because they're going to now cut more trees down to refurbish that dam.
There's a couple of things about taking those dams down. one, you need a permit from the state to do that. You can't disturb a beaver lodge or a beaver dam without a permit, a special permit from the state. Two, if there's flooding as a result of removing a dam, the town would be responsible for any flooding that would occur as a result of that. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you need to be very clear about what the implication could be from doing it. And you are correct. As soon as you take it down, if you haven't removed the beavers, let me tell you, as quick as they can, they'll rebuild that whole thing, and as faster than you think they'll do it. I mean, we all know how highway projects and things like that go. Those beavers will be on it right away, and let me tell you, within 2 or 3 days, the whole thing will be rebuilt.
They got you beat,
You should have
John.
told me that like a few months ago.
Put 'em on payroll.
And the window is, I mean, we're at
Yeah,
the
we're-
beginning of February, but really only have
2
7 or
months.
8 weeks,
Yeah.
So, and, you know, we would be in contact. I would, as soon as he told me what he was trapping, I would let you know. So there'd be a dialogue. It doesn't end tonight, you know.
Okay. All right, so, I mean, I will make a motion to authorize Dave Corrado to manage the beaver situation in Monbassia Park, in the 2 lakes in there.
All right. Do you want to add to the resolution that Amory will be the beaver
Amory will be
coordinator, the beaver removal coordinator?
Amory will be the coordinator. You don't have to touch them, but you will.
Keep account?
Keep account, yeah, no.
Count the paddles.
And Dave will work with Amory.
Yeah, I can assure the town that I will be making Anne Marie aware of any of my activity in there. She'll know when I'm in there, how many beavers I get, and what I find, and all
Yeah, because
that.
I know there's also, and John, I think you guys ran into it, was the stream that runs kind of parallel to Rye Hill on the, kind of runs down by,
That's where the problem is with
That's
the
off of
village.
Ludlam there, yeah.
not, yeah, but on our side. it kind of is over by-
Ludlam, Barry, and Rye Hill, you got a
Yeah.
couple, but, yeah.
Right. And
I
then
never-
it
I
runs
never
right down
removed
to the-
any
the old,
dams
Reynolds House
at
is
all.
right there.
Well, no, that's.
Just for the record, I never removed a dam there, or anywhere.
Oh, no.
No, that's where the village is having problems.
Oh, okay.
In that vicinity, and it goes back behind the bus garage, because I guess that feeds into it,
Right.
right, John?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right behind, our,
Yeah, because this one runs up through like Shea Meadows. And all
yeah,
those
and that's
developments
all the
and
same,
paper
all
up
the
there.
same water,
Yeah.
coming down through there.
Sound like really good workers, though.
They
It's
are.
a shame.
Okay, so we have a motion, we need a second.
I'll second it.
All right, you got it.
Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Go
time
get
and
'em.
efforts.
Tony, I did find that email. It's actually a voicemail, so if you don't mind, I'll just make sure it's the right one, and because I don't know how to lower the stupid things.
Oh, okay.
We received the MUDNA, we received the sweeper money,
Okay.
the 275.
Okay.
It is in the bank.
When was that from?
That was 2-1. 2-1.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good.
Tony,
right.
going back to the beavers,
Yes.
in the past, the Conservation Commission had gotten a grant for placement of trees, and they worked, you said you knew about it, and
Yes,
they
they just
did
planted
plants,
40-something trees up there about.
40 some odd trees.
Yeah.
And there's also, something with tribs for Hudson Estuary, trees for tribs. So maybe we can coordinate with the Conservation Commission as well to
That's
find
fine.
out if we do need replacement trees and if we can protect them enough. Maybe we can
All right.
Feed the beavers.
feed
Are
the
you-
beavers. No,
Are-
maybe we can relieve some of the damage that they might have incurred.
All right. Are you volunteering to coordinate that with the?
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
so,
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary.
Beaver
Appreciate it. Okay. Next item on the agenda is, we have currently, I won't get into specifics here other than maybe dollar amounts. We currently have a workman's comp claim which goes back over 20 years. And and Mary Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong with explaining this. So currently, we are insured with NYMER and Wright Insurance, okay? In the past, we had been insured through Orange County. Now, when you left Orange County Insurances, coverage, any open claims became your responsibility, meaning the town's responsibility. So we had an open claim for somebody with a workman's comp issue that was pertaining to one certain part of their body. Since then, they have billed the Medicaid for somewhere in the neighborhood of like, right now the current one I'm looking at is $26,000, but I think it ended up being over $40,000. Okay, so Wright Insurance has offered the services of somebody who will actually go in and fight that claim for you, and they think they have a really good case on it, and it'll cost us approximately $1,700 to do that. Otherwise, we're going to have to reimburse Medicare for the $26,000. So
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's in the best interest that we move forward with that, and I think we should authorize the town to be able to do that.
What would the cost be?
Approximately $1,700.
17 for 24,000.
26.
Excuse me, 26. Good idea.
I mean, it's so blatant because, I mean, let's say the comp claim was for an elbow, okay? This person has been submitting comp claims for respiratory illness or something that has happened to his, left knee, and it was his right elbow, and they were paying it because it was just an open claim. So I mean, I'll make the motion
I'll second it.
that we go forward with this and pay $1,700 in order to get it rectified.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? No? Okay, call the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Under new business, tax collector certificate. Madam Clerk.
Okay, every year I ask you, the board, I'm sorry, to sign my tax collector's certificate of liability insurance. And this is to cover me for collecting, and the town for collecting the taxes. So it's required by Orange County that the town board members, I don't need a motion, I just need the town board members to sign it. The certificate is, you already approved the certificate back at the end of December. Okay, so, but the county requires that the board members sign the certificate, so I could pass it down, and if you could just find the empty blank space in the middle there, Mike, down toward the bottom, you see that blank space there? Just sign in there.
Here
Yeah.
or here?
Yeah, put it in that one.
This box right
Yep.
here? Okay. Just sign, that's it?
Just sign, Councilman McGinn, and I will attach the resolution
I picked it up.
when the board approved this insurance.
Mary Ellen, could you tell
Yeah,
me
I got
what
it.
the acronym CRIME, C-R-I-M-E, stands for?
That's just how they send it in the email to me. It's just it's to cover if there is any theft or anything like that, so I guess that's what the crime is. I don't do this particular part of insurance, so,
I didn't know if they had a
Yeah.
special meeting, No, okay. Thank you.
and just to report that we had a very good tax collection up till January 31st. We have had, out of 12,993 bills, we have 1,703 bills left unpaid. So it's been a very good tax collection. At this point, we still have 2 more months, and I have about 60 more bills in my office right now that have to be entered in tomorrow morning.
And
So we figured out, what was the percentage today?
it was 13% of the tax bills have not been paid, but the dollar amount was a
The
little
dollar
higher.
amount would be 84%. 84%, did I say 84?
Yeah, I think, yeah, so the dollar amount
84% has been paid.
has been paid, right.
Okay. I am open tomorrow night for taxes, if anybody needs to come in and pay it. And we will be opened the end of the month, the Tuesday and Wednesday night before the end of the month. So if anybody needs to come in.
Okay, and nobody's been busier than a beaver than your office, so thank you to
Yes,
you,
thank you.
Patty, and Valerie.
Thank you.
Okay. Library, on the new business, library backyard garden enhancement. In your packets was the rough mock-up. I met with the library last week. They have an area in the back where they like to improve. John and I think, had spoke a couple of months ago regarding possibly, offering them the use of some of our men to help improve it. I think I'd like to essentially table this to the February 26th meeting, only because Rick has informed me that at the Association of Towns, there are a couple of vendors there that would be able to possibly help us with this going forward. So I'd like to offer that to the library. They would do that research, but I'll get the vendors for them. They want to create a little theater back there for some of the presentations they have and shows that they do there. So I thought it would be in the town's best interest if we were able to contribute, aside from the men, maybe in some small monetary way.
All right, let's see what they have.
All right?
In fact,
You want to make a motion to table?
Yes, I'll make a motion to table that.
I'll second it.
February 26th. Second it?
Yep.
Okay.
Aye.
So moved. All right.
We have money in the recreation fund we can also use.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, we're not
Not a-
talking a lot of money.
Yeah, not a lot.
Okay, new business, amendment to 2018-2020 Urban County Cooperation Agreement. Mary Ellen, or Mr. Nugent, is that?
This is the part of the county unit. It's a continuation of the cooperation agreement for the Community Development Block Grant Program and what they call the Home Program.
Okay.
It's basically each municipality in the county passes a resolution as part of the collective consortium of municipalities in Orange County. So this is apparently an amendment. I haven't seen the original version, but it's just an amendment to some language in the cooperation agreement, indicating that the town becomes included as a general unit of government in this urban county community development block grant entitlement program. And if there were funds that were available to the respective municipalities, by participating, the town would also be eligible for any grant funds that come out of it.
Okay.
So I believe you're already in this, to the best of my knowledge. This is just basically extending the agreement and allowing it to renew, I believe, for 3 years beyond the expiration date.
Okay. So we don't have to take any action here?
You would need to authorize you to execute the agreement, because it has to be done back to them by March 1st.
Okay. Somebody would somebody make that
I'll make a motion authorizing the supervisor to sign the Urban County Cooperation Agreement, the extension of,
I'll second it.
or the amendment and extension of.
Seconded by Councilman Cologne. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the home program or the ESG program were, because if we go with the County Cooperation Agreement, I understand we cannot apply then to the home program or the ESG program. Is
I
that
think
true?
that's only true if you're not doing this agreement. You cannot participate in any of them.
If
In other
you're
words,
not doing
if
this
you do
agreement.
not do this agreement, then the town, and this is part of what's in their agreement here, cannot apply for grants under the Community Development Block Grant, may not participate in the Home Program Consortium, except through the county itself, and may not receive any formula allocation. The ESG is an emergency shelter program, they refer to it. I'm not sure of the details, but that's...
Okay, it's something we don't usually participate in.
Yeah, I don't know what your participation has been in the past, or whether you've gotten any funds, or if there's really anything that this agreement has done for the town specifically at all. I couldn't tell you, because I don't know what you've done in the past with this.
Okay.
I don't
Thank you.
think there's
I don't
there's
think we've
anything.
done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so the board knows, I did call the county because I would not even begin to know where to find this agreement. And if I did, it might be in Pennsylvania. So I did call the county, and they are going to send me a copy of the agreement that we signed, I guess, back in July of 1993. So once I get that, I'll scan it in and send it to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, I think I'd like to amend it just that
Yeah.
upon review of the town attorney, the old agreement and the, for authorizing the supervisor to sign it.
Okay, that's fine.
Everyone good with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, you do have another meeting, so you do have time if you wish to, table this to get some more information. It's got to be returned by March 1st, so you have another meeting this month if you want to put it off for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
You can do that as well.
I think as long as we have it reviewed by you, I think that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then I'll wait till we get that document, and then why don't we put it on for the next meeting?
February 26th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will call the county because the county was very interested to know what night this was going to be on the agenda, and they were, I assume they were assuming we were going to pass it. So I will notify them tomorrow that we've tabled it until
Yeah,
they
the
get
other
us that
option, as
agreement.
suggested, is you can authorize it subject to our review of the agreement, and then as soon as we have that, and we're satisfied, the supervisor could sign once we review the original agreement.
Yeah, I think we should do that in the interest of efficiency and time. This way, we're not talking about it again on the 26th.
Right, as long as
Yeah,
Mr.
right.
Nugent reviews it,
Right.
I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So we're going to make the motion that we authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement subject to the town attorney's approval.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Well done, Mary Ellen.
Okay.
Good. Call.
Seconded it. Any other discussion?
No.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. Next item is our improvements to Water District Number 12.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
Who knows
we
about
now
that?
have a short EAF form. We are starting the process. I spoke to Mike Weeks over at Magui Hauser Edsel. He's been our contact person, along with Sean Arnott. So in the packet, there should be something, no, I actually left it in your individual mailboxes over the weekend. We have a short EAF form, and in order to get this process started regarding SEPR, again, Mr. Nugent, let me know if I'm misspeaking, but the town needs to file a notice of intent to be lead agency. And then there's a 30-day waiting period, and then we can say there's neg deck, and we can be lead agency. So if that's the gist of the review process that I
Yeah,
outlined.
the notice, if it hasn't been done, we can prepare that. That would get sent out to any interested involved agencies. If no one claims to be lead agency, then the town would take over that role and then go through the review process.
Mike Weeks said possibly the county board of health would be
Interested?
a fallback, yeah.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to authorize you to prepare that notice of intent?
We can do that, yeah, authorize us to prepare, I would say, the notice of intent and related documents for this matter.
Okay, so I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Okay, so call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Public comment. Next item. You have a list of signees?
Tom Lapola?
Evening, Tom.
First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Cardone, Mr. Bingham, on the being elected to their respective new town leadership roles, as well as Mr. Colon on being re-elected. And now, Mr. Scancarella, wish you luck. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
Item 1, I disagree with the decision to restrict speakers who don't sign up to speak within the time frame established by the board. Most travel from the city, and sometimes you can't all make that deadline. Second item is a little bit more complicated, something I want to speak about. It's a bit more complicated, as it addresses an individual's right to petition their government. I'm aware you may be unable to speak to these concerns as it's currently being negotiated through the legal process, but at least this time with judicial oversight. But I do hope these comments shine a light not only on backroom deals and political abuses which took place in our town, but on the governing problems which have now followed as a result of these abuses. Last November, an overwhelming majority of Monroe voters easily passed a referendum creating the new town of Palm Creek. We were sure that the political organization which negotiated that town had everything under control. They were confident that this agreement, although not perfect, would give us political freedom from the block vote. As part of that agreement, the original petitioners for the 507-acre annexation would agree to suspend all legal action in pursuit of that land. Unfortunately, not all the parties to that lawsuit have agreed to this stipulation. It seems they were excluded and gerrymandered out of the new town, which would have given them the same zoning advantages that they were seeking with the original annexation. I can fully appreciate the angst of these excluded property owners, especially since there was a pretty good chance the 507-acre lawsuit would have been successful. I liken it to buying the winning lottery ticket with your coworkers and finding out afterwards they made a deal with workers from another company, leaving you out in the cold. How then does the new board, the new town board, plan to reconcile? This is the question for you, and I know you might not be able to speak about it because it's in, like I said before, it's in litigation. How does the new town board plan to reconcile in an independent manner the legitimate concerns, and they are legitimate concerns, of those petitioners who were excluded from the new town, and they were excluded, which was done for political expediency? Recognize it was your own political party who privately negotiated that land deal, which basically usurped the rights of those petitioners. Good night, and thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Mike Goldstein?
So I'd just like to remind everyone that the agenda items or a community concern regarding service are the issues that can be addressed to the town board, all right? So I respect Mr. LaPola's opinions and what he had to say. Those issues are not on the agenda, we're not before the town board at this time. So until such time they are, when those comments should be made. This is a matter of legal action that's being taken, so we couldn't comment on it if we wanted to. And some of the comments you made were strictly of your own opinion and not based in true fact. So go ahead, Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you. Mike Goldstein, resident of the town. Mr. Cardone, I know how happy you were when I made a comment at the last meeting that there was some incongruity between the wording and the intent of this law. It's been corrected in only one place.
Section 3 still needs to be corrected.
Yeah, well.
I've spoke to Madam Clerk about that.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Dan Burke?
Yeah, hi, Dan Burke, Elder Statesman, 11 Rye Hill Road. Last meeting, I tried to give the supervisor a compliment, and he modestly deferred. But even though the county executive originated it, and our good friends at the ShopRite chipped in, good management shows when an event turns out well. And I'd like to compliment the supervisor and the town board for making that happen. And in regard to the theater, there was a dispute with Hudson Valley International Film Festival. They think that they're owed some money. The new supervisor, I would ask him to talk with them and find out what their claim is and discuss it and see if it has any merit. And while discussing it with them, consider bringing it back this August. August is dog days for ticket sales at the theater. There's nothing going on. You can fill up a week. Hundreds of people come from out of town. They stay in the hotels. They eat in the restaurants. They bring business to the community. They give sales tax. It's an event that is wonderful for the town and wonderful for the theater. And I think you should consider doing it again. And I'm not sure the lines of management at the theater. I'm thinking Mr. Cardone is taking the lead on a lot of this, but it'd be nice if we had some kind of structure explained to us as to how the theater is being managed. And a monthly report from the theater. Actually, the ticket sales and the concession sales are available daily. It'd be nice if they were posted on the website so town people could see what was actually going on and the activity that's happening. And I don't think that would interfere with business. I don't think it has to be confidential. It should really be out in the open. And a monthly report would be nice, too. While we're talking about money, here's a way to save some money. You get some electric cars. And right now you're already leasing a couple of cars. But the thing to do would be to talk to the town engineer, yes, Mark Edsel, and see if he can have an evaluation made, tell you how much money electric car would save the town. And if it's substantial, it might be worth pursuing. But you should not be in the dark about this. You should know exactly what the numbers are, and you should get an outside source to provide those numbers. Door control. The door control officer in Woodbury now requires citizens to call the police, not her. And I'm wondering how it works here. I'm also wondering what the finances were last year. Are we saving money?
Time.
Is that 3 minutes?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. I had a few other items. I'll do them by email. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lorraine Loning.
No, I know.
Hello, Lorraine Loning, Village of Monroe. I too am going to talk about the movie theater. I was there this weekend twice. I saw a really good movie and a slightly less good movie. And they were both really well attended. And that is frequently my concern and my complaint about the theater is the offerings. I've been here many times where I talk about how there's tons of animated and child-centric movies that really don't appeal to a more adult taste for theater. I was really would like you guys to consider opening up another theater. I think I spoke to you, Mr. Cardone, that I believe that there's a revenue problem, an expense problem too, but also a revenue problem. And from the number of people at these movies, they're a little artsy and Oscar-nominated stuff, and a lot of there's no appetite for that in Monroe, and I'm here to tell you that there is. Those movies were very well attended, and I think if we had a more diverse offering, you'd be pleasantly surprised at the more foot traffic you'd get in there. I know I would go because I often find myself schlepping all over Rockland and all over places to watch the movies I want to see. So I hope you'll consider that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ward Brower.
Ward Brower, private citizen. You can stop now. I want to congratulate the new councilman.
Thank you.
I hope you can take all that horrible work.
Absolutely.
Also want to congratulate Ms. Converes on her new job. We'll miss her being at this position every so often, even though we disagreed on many things. In this environment, it's good to have opposite opinions, and she did supply that. I also urge the board to return to a tradition of having their department reports at these monthly meetings with their department members for 3 reasons. First of all, the public gets to see who's spending their money on and on what. Second of all, the members of those departments get to realize they're actually working for the taxpayers and the public. And third, which is just as important as the other two, sometimes these minor agreements can be worked out on a monthly meeting so they don't escalate as we've seen, and I'm not going to mention the department. You can iron out a lot of these bugs. They work well for like generations, believe me. And my last pet peeve is to return back privileges of the floor to as originally established by Mike Frerick, supervisor. It was not a fluke. For 12 years he had a meeting with no intimidating clock, no sign up. He answered questions on the spot and never called the cops. Now, some board members looked a little skeptical when I made that. They said, well, we're in a different era now. Well, I can tell you the supervisor that preceded him had meetings where, and I'm not going to mention the department, in John DeAndrews Hall, where chairs would fly off the walls. Mike Farage, and chairs did not fly off the walls. People were upset, but they all had an opportunity to speak. They all had an opportunity to get an answer. And they got the answer immediately. And the other little secret was, Tony, you should take, is to have the questions addressed to you. You do the answering. If you need help, you can then defer to someone else. He worked that quite well. And there's only one member on this present board that knows what I speak is the truth. That person was in the audience, knows it happened and happened repeatedly for 12 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Wood.
Thank you.
That's all.
That's it? Would anyone like to comment?
As far as sign up, can't people call up and pre-sign up? I mean, before we have the meeting, it doesn't necessarily have to happen here. They can call in and say, I'm going to be at this meeting, and so you don't have to be here to sign up. In other words, if you think you're going to be late, you can tell them you're going to be showing up at such and such a time. And I think that you can always call in and sign up before we have the meeting, so that, or even text it or send it on an email. And if you have a question, it's always good to forward that question in before, so we can prepare an answer. And I'm not saying a whitewash answer, I'm just saying a real answer to answer and address your question thoroughly. So those are my two comments.
Mary?
Yeah, I agree with Lorraine. The movie theater needs a variety of movies. I've always expounded upon that we need to make that more of an avenue for different types of activities, maybe not movies, but seminars or other things as well. So I don't know who our liaison specifically is going to be on that, trying to get that organized. Stop looking at me, Mike.
Oh, I was looking at Tony.
But yes, I think you're right. We need to work on that. Regarding electric cars, again, we'll need to find out who's going to be the liaison with the solar farm. Maybe we can have a charging station there. It doesn't pay to get electric cars if you don't have a good way to charge them. I know Orange Regional Medical Center has a charging station, so we'll have to look into that. That is a good idea.
Just regarding the theater, Lorraine, unfortunately, the company that procures the films for us, we're kind of, and this is, again, dates back to the previous board that entered into the agreement with that entity. We're kind of hamstrung with what they kind of give us, and that's been a problem, and we realize that, and that's something we're going to be looking to change down the road as we look at the entire theater operations. And I agree with that a better diversity of films is something we want to do. I know George had some Bollywood films in there. It was a great draw, and that's what we want to do, because there's a lot of dead time in there, and that's what we want to draw people in, and so we'd like to see more of that. But as far as the feature films, we know that there's an issue with that, and it's something we're going to address. Regarding Mr. Burke's comments with the theater, asking us about the management structure, we were hamstrung with a management structure, or lack of thereof, when we came on this board. That was the doings of the previous board that you were on, Mr. Burke, and there were no monthly reports. There were no accurate accounting of profits and losses or anything until the light was shown on the inadequacies of how that was being ran. And that's something, again, that this board is now thrust onto us, that we have to correct the mistakes that were made by previous boards, including the one you were on when you bought the theater and put that management team in place. So we'll address those items all in order, and we'll get taken care of, but it's going to take time. Regarding the vehicles, the electric cars, the two vehicles that were purchased for the highway, for the building department, it was essential that those vehicles be four-wheel drives, have somewhat heavy duty so they could drive onto these developments as they were being built. If we were to get an electric four-wheel drive vehicle, we would have been paying about 3 times the price of one of those vehicles. We got 2 vehicles for what we feel is a very, very good and reasonable price. This lease option is something that will save us money down the road, and while it's something that we could certainly look at with less lighter duty vehicles for what those vehicles were going to be used for, that was we found that was the best fit for the town and the most economical.
Is it?
That's it.
Just one comment to Tommy Lopolo regarding the signups. In the past, it became a disruption in the meeting when people were standing up and coming up and signing up while the meeting was going on. And I personally felt that, we needed to have a more structured meeting. Now, that being said, I had no problem with that at that time because the agenda was put out at 3 or 4 o'clock prior to the evening of the meeting. So people had no idea what was going on. Since January 2018, we've put out our agenda the Tuesday before the meeting. So people have about a week to actually analyze what's on the agenda. You could sign up at that particular point, just send an email into, to the clerk. So, there are other boards that don't allow you to sign up after the meeting starts. There are boards in the town, in the state, which I did a little research on, that do not allow you to sign up the day of the meeting. You have to sign up 1 or 2 days prior to. So it's all according to what that particular municipality or locale feels is in their best interest, and this is how we feel regarding that. That's basically all I have. You guys covered everything else.
Oh, can I just make one more comment based on that?
Sure.
And I'll do it very quickly.
3 minutes.
Yes, and the reason we have a 3-minute comment is this. People tend to ramble on. If they don't have limitations, they go off on tangents. And too often, people that weren't as direct as some speakers. Some speakers are very direct. They cut to the chase. They're precise in what they want. And they make a very meaningful and straightforward discussion of what their idea is and the question they want answered. The 3-minute limit was put on just to keep people focused on what they want to get across. And that's the only reason. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. We need to make a motion for executive session
I'll make that motion for executive session to cover.
to discuss,
Personnel matters.
Yeah, personnel, there's a personnel matter. And there's
some contractual issues.
Yeah, there's contractual.
Contractual,
Yeah,
right?
contractual in there too, yeah.
Okay, I made the motion. Second? Anybody?
Second.
Seconded? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to return from executive session.
I'll make a motion return from executive session to the regular meeting.
I'll second it.
You second it?
I'll second it, yeah.
It's not midnight yet. We
know.
got time. Go ahead.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 So moved. Okay, first item up, zoning board of appeals alternate member stipend. So I will make a motion that the stipend for an alternate member attending is $55 per meeting. And then if they actually sit on the board where they're making a decision with voting rights, that stipend would be $109.09, which essentially is the yearly stipend divided by 11 because they have 11 meetings.
Sometimes they do, not always.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, we have a proposal for IT professional services, which is an IMA with the town of New Windsor. provided, there was one change and some other review that Mr. Nugent does. I would like to make a motion that we enter into that agreement as of March 15th, 2018, and we notify our current provider that we will not be needing their services anymore.
You got to do that tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, well, I'll have...
So we can go by the
council do it.
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll make that motion.
It's seconded by Mr. McGinn.
Seconded?
Yep.
Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. So, next item is the appointment for the Monroe Joint Park Commission. We had an appointment last month, and we did not designate the term for that appointment to end. So I will make a motion that Chris Sullivan, who was appointed in January, his term expires on December 31st, 2020. Need a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Next up is a motion to appoint Raymond Shuker, it's S-H-U-K-R, to the Shukar, to the Park Commission with a term that expires December 31st, 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion was, this was a recommendation made by the Park Commission itself for someone who they feel would be able to benefit their needs going forward. Any other discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so moved. Sir.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we, as per a pending contract, that we pay our water operator ECO $6,833.33 and for services rendered for the month of January
Right,
2018.
because he's definitely been doing work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to second that motion.
That's done in accordance with the pending
Pending
contract.
contract.
pending
Pending
contract.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? You seconded it, right?
She's done.
I did.
Mary did.
Mary.
Okay, call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, so moved. And with regard to the approval for the easement from Isaac Walter, Mr. Nugent is still looking for some other information, and you're going to be discussing that with Highway Superintendent Sherney?
That's correct.
Okay, so we will hold that off till the end of February's meeting. Okay. Motion to adjourn if there's no other further business.
Just one thing I'd like the board to be aware of. You only have one person who did not take their oath of office, and that would be the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate member, Moishi Hirsch. So now you still have a vacancy there, unless you want to reappoint him, but he never came in and we have no information on him whatsoever, and he never came in and did his oath of office. We have no contact phone number, nothing.
So then we have an opening.
We have an opening, so if you want to leave that till the next meeting,
Yeah. let's
Leave it till next
Leave it
meeting.
till next
I'll put it
meeting.
on the agenda, or you'll let
Thank
me
you.
know if you want it on.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, thanks, Mary Ellen.
And our new councilman has to go into Human Resources and fill out all the paperwork that needs to be done. So I'll make a motion to adjourn at 10:14.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye.